everybody goes through it. It's probably one of the most natural, normal things, no matter who you are or where you're from.
They don't actually know what's going on. Business is an emotional game.
If you even have the desire to go help someone and to have a conversation, like, you're already ahead.
You know, when you are growing an agency or building an agency, like, understand you will go through a bit of a roller coaster, and that's okay, because we all do.
It's almost like a cheat code. It's going to take effort.
What would you do to kind of get over that, and what steps would you take?
I can tell you what I did, and then I can tell you what I should have done. All right, hey everyone, Adam Earhart here, and welcome to today's podcast, where we're going to be talking all about imposter syndrome, all of those fears and doubts that stop you from taking the actions that you need to, that really hold you back and really prevent you from getting your business, your agency to the next level. As usual, I've got my trusty co-host, Dave Crawford, with me here in the house. Say hi, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. All right, my man. So without further ado, I think we just dive right in here, because this is one of those topics that we see all the time with members of the program, with comments on our YouTube videos, with responses to emails. And it's always this, always comes down to imposter syndrome, which, for anybody that's not familiar with the term, it's this feeling of self-doubt. It's this feeling of really being an imposter. It's feeling like you're not qualified to do it. You don't have what it takes. And I think it goes deeper than that, because obviously when you're first starting out, like, we don't have what it takes. That's why we have to learn. But it's this feeling that I'll never have what it takes, and I'm never going to be able to do it, and I'm not going to be able to figure it out. And it's that crushing fear that prevents so many people from taking action. And I think the scariest thing is, and probably also one of the most consoling things, is that everybody goes through it. It's probably one of the most natural, normal things, no matter who you are or where you're from.
Yeah, I think you'll go through it at different stages as well. I think you come into your agency and you're just getting started, and it hits you straight away, and it stops you and crushes you. And then you'll get through that, you'll come through it, and you'll go to the kind of next level in your agency, and you have to learn something new, and it happens again, and it happens again. But what is great is if you can learn how to kind of get over that and obviously improve it the first time, then it just gets easier and easier and easier, and doesn't keep crippling you like it did in the first time.
Yeah. New levels, new devils, we say, right? So it's like every time that you think you've got a problem solved, well, another one comes up. And that's really kind of like business in general, life in general. It's this series of solving problems, like one after another. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's learning those skills of, I don't want to say coping, but like learning to embrace and accept it, because then you can apply it the next time that you have a challenge, the next time you have to learn something. So let's talk imposter syndrome. Let's talk some skills. First of all, I think it is important to address that, like, everybody has it. So I've got a buddy, his wife is a doctor, and he was telling me about this brand new thing he just heard about, where she was having all these doubts and fears. He's like, have you ever heard of imposter syndrome? I was like, yes, I'm well versed. And so it's like, it's not just in business. It's not just in the agency world. It's like doctors and lawyers. And I think anybody that's ever learned anything is like, what am I doing? So I think step one is to sort of admit that this thing is normal. And then also understand that the flip side of imposter syndrome is another syndrome. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And the Dunning-Kruger effect is this toxic, lethal thing where you think you're really, really good and you're just not yet. And so this is where the damage gets done, because you're like, I'm invincible and I know everything and I never make mistakes. And you just go out there and you burn the world down. So know that imposter syndrome is a bit of a defense mechanism. It's your brain trying to keep you safe. And then understanding that, all right, everyone goes through it. So now what are the steps that I'm going to have to do, and how am I going to start to overcome this?
Yeah, and I think something else to realize as well is, like, when you get hit with imposter syndrome, you think like, I'm not good enough, I'm not going to be able to do this. Or sometimes you think like, I'm going to get found out. And maybe that's for a client or a colleague or someone close to you or close that you're working with. They don't actually know what's going on. They can't actually see that maybe you don't know what you're doing with Google ads, or you don't know what you're doing with Facebook ads, but you're going to figure it out. So I think sometimes your brain makes it feel so much worse, and you start to, like, what I call cascade, and like you go into all these scenarios and it gets worse and worse, but the client already thinks you're great. Like, if you're doing the basics and you're communicating, you're fine. You will work it out as you go. But yeah, like I said, the brain tricks you to think it's like the worst case scenario and like the world's going to end. But it's not. It really isn't.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple things on that, right? It's like, I forget the expression, but it was like, if you knew how little people were actually thinking of you, like you'd never worry. Like, everybody's got their own problems, right? So it's like, how much are they actually thinking about you? And they're just not. Like, they've got their own stuff to go for. The second thing is that if you know even a little bit more, you're one step ahead, you know 10% more, well, then you're able to help them. So you don't have to have the entire map planned out. You don't have to have all the puzzle pieces in place. You just have to know the next few things that you're going to do at every stage. And that makes this, any new goal, any new thing you're trying to achieve a lot more manageable. Understanding that, look, I don't have to have the whole thing figured out right now because I'm just starting. I mean, let's be realistic here. But I do know that I can figure out the next piece. And I also know that I'm going to be able to figure out the piece after that. And I think that's where we start to talk about identity and confidence and a tool that I know you and I have talked about before, of like a confidence journal, and looking back at like past successes and writing down all of the things and all the things you've accomplished up until now. And for no other reason than to be like, look, I've gone through hard stuff before and I've overcome it. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but like, hey, if you're here now and you're listening to this and you're thinking about building an agency, or you have one already, it's like you've already done hard things. You went to school, you learned to tie your shoes, you learned how to ride a bike, you learned how to cook yourself a meal. Like these are not normal skills. So we have to learn them, and then we can sort of build up that confidence.
Yeah, I'm so bad at that, going back and like looking and reviewing like what you achieved, because I'm always looking forward and I'm always trying to learn like what next. So yeah, I think there's a good point. It's like going back and saying, oh, I'd have done this and I've done that, and then your brain starts to think, well, actually, I have got the ability and the skill sets to go and learn this. And I think you make a good point as well. Like a lot of the time, I'll always look at a project or a new client and try and figure the whole thing out. And what we want to do is chunk it down. So what's the first thing I need to do to get a win? Or we always say in the program is like, just get an early win, get a quick win with your client. So that might just be jumping on an onboarding call and building some rapport and having really good communication and showing off some of your skill sets. It might not be that you're further down the line and you're getting results for the client yet, but if you can just have that quick win and build that confidence and build that rapport with the client, that can go a long way of just building your confidence and crushing that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. I think also when you start having conversations with clients, and you start to realize, like, no disrespect, but like how little they know about digital marketing. It's not a normal thing, right? Like nobody knows marketing and digital marketing. And so you bring up a term like, I don't know, PPC, pay-per-click, right? Like a term that we use inside the agencies every day and all of this. And they're going to say, I'm sorry, what? Or what's that mean? Or what is that? And you'll be like, oh, Google ads. And they'll be like, oh yeah, like SEO. And you're like, well, no, not quite. Like it's actually at the top and it's a little bit different. And you start to realize it's like, oh man, I am going to need to simplify everything I'm saying down to like a third grade level. Because this is just not things that the average business owner deals with on a regular everyday basis. They've got a business to run, they've got employees to look after, they've got payroll, they've got taxes, they've got sometimes inventory and all of the different things that go into it. So marketing, they know it's important, but like their knowledge of it and their desire to go learn it, it's just not really there. Otherwise, they would be doing what we're doing, but instead they're there. So yeah, I think it's important to understand that like if you even have the desire to go help someone and to have a conversation, like you're already ahead. Because like that's what people are really looking for, is someone to come in and say, look, I know what you're going through. I understand your pains and your problems. I've got this solution, and I'm gonna take control for you, and I'm gonna take that weight off your shoulder and help you get there. And it's a tremendous confidence booster.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. I think that, and that's why sometimes a lot of times if I was bringing on a client, like I would do an onboarding call with them and almost like show the screen and go through certain things, and they're like, oh wow, like, what are you doing? Like, I've never seen this before, like the back end of Facebook, like ads manager, that looks like rocket science to them. And they look at it and already they're like, I'm so glad I've hired this person because I would not be able to do any of this. So again, I teach this a lot in the program, is on the onboarding call is like almost showcase some of your skill sets. It's simple stuff to us, but it's super advanced to the client. So if you can kind of showcase what you're doing or onboard them, and you want to use maybe some fancy words to show your knowledge, but then you want to bring it back and educate that client as well. I think that can really help you have that confidence. And I think, a lot of the time when you talk about certain things as well, like you talk about certain strategies with your clients, you then get off that call and realize, actually, I know quite a lot. Like, I've learned a lot, like, because you don't tell yourself what you know all day. You don't keep repeating that to yourself. But when you kind of educate your clients that way, I think that can be a really good thing to kind of build your confidence and make you realize that actually there is a lot in that head. You just don't say it all the time, or
Yeah. Actually, it's funny, dude, is like, who does say it all the time is it's me. And it's because like when you're creating content and you're writing about these things and you're talking about them, and it's like, oh man, I say this stuff like like all day. I eat it, I breathe it, I sleep it. And it's literally this forced habit that started way before I was ready. So it's like, if I look back to like over a decade ago when I first got started in digital marketing, and I didn't know like SEO from CRO, from PPC, from ABC, like none of them. I knew nothing, zero. And I remember going and like learning something and then taking notes on it, because that's how I remember doing okay in school. It was like, well, I'd hear a concept and you'd take some notes. So I did the same thing with marketing. And then lo and behold, well, hey, that's a blog. That's social content. That's the outline for a YouTube video or a podcast or whatever it is. So yeah, I think as you're going through learning anything, any new skill, whether it's marketing or cooking or photography or whatever, like take some notes, put them in your own words, explain it back. And then as you're explaining it with a client, it's going to become more clear and more solidified. But also if you can, and this is the reason that we preach content creation so much, is that like, if you can create a YouTube video, if you can write a blog post, if you can write some social posts, you're going to be forced to clarify this concept. And I mean, oh man, you know the drill. I mean, like you do that like a couple dozen times and you know that stuff inside and out. So much so that you almost have to like turn off the autopilot because it just comes flowing out.
Yeah, it's a really good way to learn, actually. I never thought of that. Like obviously we both have channels, and we go out and kind of look at a subject and then go and shoot that video. But I think like, yeah, if you shoot a video and you've obviously rewatched it, you've shot it, and then you put it live, like it's a way of learning in the sense of you've learned that and then you're actually shooting the video. So it's and then it's valuable content, and then people watch it. So yeah, I've never thought of that, actually. It's a good way of learning, instead of just, I mean, I've gone through so many courses, and like you sit there and you watch hours and hours of content, and you're like, oh, I'm so bored now. But at least if you shoot a video, like even if you did one a week, and put that out there, like that would be a great way to kind of learn and learn certain kind of topics, but then also educate an audience that could potentially be your clients in the future.
Yeah. You're building up the assets for it. I remember when we brought on Kyle, one of the agency ambassadors, and I was like, hey, here's the deal. You come in and you're going to start talking to people and you're going to start helping them with things. And you're going to provide some great value, and everyone loves you, and you're good at what you do. I was like, but here's the other thing. You're going to learn so much faster because you're going to be the one creating this content. Same thing with when I talked to Taylor about it as well. I was like, the more that you create this stuff and the more that you talk about it, the faster that you're going to learn it, the faster you're going to develop your skills. And it's one of those things that, I don't know, it's almost like a cheat code, but it kind of isn't, because it's one of those things of like, it's going to take effort, but the reward that you get from the effort that it takes is disproportionate to the amount of effort that it takes. So it's like, yes, creating content is, especially when you're first getting started, like it's a little bit uncomfortable. It's not a lot of fun. You got to figure out a little bit, talking to an inanimate camera for a while, writing things out, putting it out to the world. But I think the other side is like, when you first get started, your audience just by nature is a little bit smaller, which means you've got a safe testing ground there. There's not like tens of thousands or 100,000s or millions of people that are going to see it. So you can start small and write some stuff and put some stuff out there and start to build that up. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't even imagine my career and trajectory where it would be like without the content. Like without a doubt, the content, aside from the fact that it created all the assets and built all the businesses, but just by sort of cementing that knowledge, by just having to say it again and again and again and talk about it, has been it's been a huge confidence boost.
All right, let's bring it back to imposter syndrome then. And let's say you're just getting started, or you want to build an agency, but you've got imposter syndrome. Like, where would you, what would you do to kind of get over that, and what steps would you take?
Yeah, right on. So I can tell you what I did, and then I can tell you what I should have done, because they're very different. I think what I did when I first got started was freak out, just freak out all the time. And this like soul crushing, life draining fear. And I sort of let it take hold of me, of being like, I'm never going to make it, and this is impossible. And I tell this story a lot because it's sort of indicative of my mental state at the time. But I remember hearing about people building 7-figure agencies, like $1 million a year agencies. And where I was at, I was like, that is not true. That is not a thing. That like no one makes $1 million online, or it's like, you're just lying. And so I was like, well, this is even harder to believe. And then fortunately met enough people that did, and they were good people. I was like, holy, this is actually real. This is insane. Oh, 8 figures, 10, 100 million. What is happening here? So it's a whole new world. So I think freaking out really didn't get me anywhere. But on the bright side, it did kind of give me a bit of a chip on my shoulder which I'm not against. So I don't believe like you should operate from a place of fear and anxiety and stress and anger and bitterness. It's not a good long-term strategy, but a short-term strategy, it's not bad. Like, it's like if it sort of motivates you to take that action to prove others wrong and to also prove yourself wrong, that's, I don't mind that. It's like getting things rolling. Just make sure that we aren't tapping into that energy forever. You just burn yourself out. So that's it. Number one is like, we've got to harness whatever motivation we have with us, whether that's the desire to achieve something great or the desire to get out of something really crappy. Like, one of the two is going to drive us forward. And then I think once that's done, you've got to accept a few fundamental facts. A, nobody cares about you like at all. And that's freeing. That's not a bad thing at all. It's like, yeah, your friends and family, they love you and they support you and all that. But like, outside of that, nobody cares. So it's like, all right, cool. So now I've got permission to go out there and to take some chances and to take some swings and to start to put some stuff together. You also have the opportunity to kind of invent yourself because, again, nobody really knows you. So if there's a certain kind of clothes that make you feel powerful, there's actually a psychological phenomenon known as enclothed cognition. And they've done studies on it where if you wear certain clothes, you act a certain way. They did it with doctors' coats. They put people in doctor coats and they were smarter. Then they told them the same coat was a painter's coat and they were more artistic. So it's like some weird brain stuff going on. There's another book called The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman. There's a great book on this where you can use all kinds of different gadgets and gizmos and clothes and whatever to sort of psych yourself up. You got to accept that imposter syndrome is real. You have to accept that it's probably never going away, and that's okay because the second it goes away, it means you're not really pushing yourself or challenging yourself. So it's like you should be taking that next step. And then ultimately, I think full circle, you just got to remind yourself of why this is important. So again, the thought of staying still, the thought of not taking action or just continuing doing what you're doing should be so painful and scary. Like, because we're all going to die and we're all going to get to the end of our lives and look back and be like, man, they're going to feel like, man, I wish I took that swing. Or it's like, wow, I can't believe that I like really pushed. And yeah, there was some times of discomfort, but like, that's where the growth happened. Yeah, I think those are the main ones.
Yeah, I think you made a good point. And one thing I picked out from that is you mentioned you had people around you. And I think that's something that's really key, especially when you're getting started. And this is something that we do in the Agency Accelerator, our program, is we've got a community. And everyone's going through that similar, struggle or having that imposter syndrome. And what we see a lot of the time is people asking similar questions, people just supporting each other. And I think that's key, especially if you're, say, brand or you just build an agency. If you can have some people around you that are in a similar spot and then have people that are further on than you and then have, leaders or mentors that can really help you, that's huge as well, just because that gives you the confidence. And also, like you said, you don't believe it, but if you're seeing other people knock in sales and build their agencies to 6, 7 figures, 8 figures, then that's just facts then, isn't it? You can't get away from they exist. So I think, the community that we have in Agency Accelerate, I think definitely helps a lot of our clients with imposter syndrome because we rally around and we support them.
Yeah. No, it's the Jim Rohn quote of like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you can find the circle of people that are achieving the things that you want to achieve, the best, it's like of all the shortcuts, that's the shortcut. It's like you go surround yourself with them because very quickly you start to realize, hey, these are the thoughts that they have. And these are the attitudes that they have. And these are the beliefs that they have. And these are the actions that they're taking. And these are the results that they're getting. And it starts to become like painfully obvious. Before I achieved the success that I wanted, I remember like looking at all of these guys at the top levels and just not understanding, like just really being like, I don't get it. Like I'm studying, I'm working. Like, why am I not doing this? And then by basically sort of buying my way into their circles through networking groups and masterminds and things like that, you start to see exactly what they're doing. And you're like, oh, it is different. I get it. Oh, you think about this way. Oh, you say that. Oh, you got that. And if you have a question, you have a problem, you can tell them and they're like, well, do this instead, or think about this, or try this. And they've all gone through all of the things that you've gone through. And they know everything about all of the fears and doubts and all of the imposter syndrome everyone's gone through. So yeah, it really is a bit of a superpower. And there's also that benefit of, again, another saying that I'm going to totally butcher here. I won't even pretend that I know where this one comes from. But it's like, you need, yeah, exactly, all the quotes. But you need you need 3 different people in your life. You need someone that's like ahead of you so they can pull you up and like show you the way and be like, this is the path and we're going to do these things. Then you need someone at the same level as you So you can commiserate and be like, I know what you're going through, and this is great, and this is bad, and we're going to figure this out, and we're going to do this. And then you need someone at a lower level than you so you can pull them up. And that way you can show them what you've done, and you can inspire them, and you can provide motivation. And yeah, I think, again, we've got a bit of I think our community is probably the best one I've ever seen or been a part of, but it's like all three of those kind of people all the time. So there's always someone ahead that's able to pull you up. There's always someone at your level that's able to say, yeah, I know what you're going through. And there's always someone below that you can say, hey, welcome to the community. This is going to be amazing. Your life is going to change. There's going to be some challenges. We're going to help you overcome them. I'm going to show you the path. And it's an emotional time sometimes.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
But
and I think,
powerful.
again, being part of the Agent Accelerator, again, you mentioned, we'll show you the path. Like, if you have that path as well, like we've just spoken about, like, then you can see where you're going to go and what you need to learn at each stage. Whereas I think if you try and do it on your own, like I know when I've been like, I'll do this on my own. I don't need anything. I don't want anyone to help me. And you're trying to do it on your own. That's when imposter syndrome kicks in.
Yeah.
You look at other people, like you look at other content, like how are they doing that? I can't get there. But then when you see the inside of that, or you see that path or that program, that framework that you work through, that really helps and then calms you down. And like, okay, I just need to learn one thing at a time. Let's not get carried away. And again, like business is an emotional game.
Yeah.
Like that just is it. You're putting so much on the line. So I think when you are growing an agency or building an agency, like understand you will go through a bit of a roller coaster, and that's okay because we all do. But if you have people around you, like you said, that support you, then great, you'll succeed.
Yeah, I like that path analogy. It sort of reminds me, it's like if you wanted to become let's say a doctor, and you're like, I'm going to become a doctor. You're like, all right, where do I start?
Put a coat on.
I was like, well, I'm going to go to Amazon and get a doctor book. Yeah, exactly. Never come to Adam and Dave.
Got to put a coat on.
We got to put a
serve everyone you can.
Yeah, bad things happen. Yeah, but so it's like, so you go to Amazon, you get like a book, and then you go to YouTube and you watch a couple like become a doctor videos, and you buy like a $997 course, and you go through it, and you're just like, I don't know, aorta this and chemistry that and whatever it is. I did not do well in high school chemistry, but for the record, clearly. But it's like, what a disaster. Like you'd feel terrified every step of the day. On the other hand,
I think that's what content does a lot of the time. When you go to YouTube or you go on Instagram and you see these reels or these videos, like I think they can make you feel worse because all the time they're like little snippet marketing videos that kind of say that like, make $1 million in a month, and you're like, what? Is that even true? And then it starts to make you feel like you're inferior, and then imposter syndromes, and then like I said, you start to cascade. So, Yeah, you do need that system, and I think you could probably like reverse engineer it and build it yourself by putting enough things together. But it would be man, that would take a lot of time. And again, like if you go to a medical school, like you show up and there's like, well, first you have pre-med, then you have your normal, I was like thinking medical school, my buddy's wife graduating there. Clearly doctor stuff's on my mind. That is a thankless profession, by the way. I can't say enough good things about for the amount that they get paid. It's not fair, actually. Bit of a sidebar here. It's not fair that us as marketers can make like 10 to 100 times more than a doctor. But like, again, that's the world that we live in. So we'll obviously better off in
grateful
the
for the
US and Canada.
opportunities.
It's not great in the UK, so let's not go there.
Is it okay?
Yeah, it's
for the
awful.
medical system. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay. Well, I think we've got a similar healthcare thing, but regardless, we've got marketers making a fortune, and we've got doctors that have to go through all this training and go through the system. But regardless, you show up at school and you've got all the things that you've got to take, all of the like little check boxes. And when you're done, provided you did a good job, hey, congrats, you're a doctor. And I think what we have been missing, at least prior to some of our experiences and obviously the launching of the program and that, is that we never had one that we really liked for the agency owner, the online entrepreneur, the person who wants to start an online business. It was always just sort of this hodgepodged stew of pieces. We're like, here's some carrots for content marketing, and here's some beef for some ads, and here's this random thing. And if you're just looking at this all, and you're looking at all of the things that you supposedly have to know, you would just drown. Where the reality is, yes, it's one step, then the next step. And I think what people are often surprised to hear is, I don't want to say how little you have to know, but how few things you have to know. So you don't need to be an expert in everything. You need to be an expert in a very small amount of things that you can learn relatively quickly. And then you need to learn how to assemble a team around you that's going to help you do these things. So it's like, again, let's use Google Ads. Like, you don't have to be an expert in Google Ads because there's Google Ads experts out there. You don't need to be an expert in landing pages because there's landing page experts out there. What you do have to be an expert in is, and this is going to sound super trite and cheesy, but it's like, yeah, I'm going to say it anyways. Like, you have to be an expert in caring. Like, that's, I know it sounds soft and silly, but it's like, if you're the one that actually, I know, only today. He's like, I had a nice, easy, a lot of family time lately. They're softening me up. But it's like, if you're the one that actually cares about your clients and the results that you get and doing a good job, like, you're going to thrive. Like, you're going to do amazing. It's not really the cutthroat, like, Google Ads analytic wizard that does it, because those are commodity skills that we can outsource and have other people. So I think, again, if we keep it on imposter syndrome here, yes, you may not have all of the answers, but A, you can go get them. And B, there are other people with the answers that you can go get very quickly and very easily. And you can associate yourself with them so that they become like a proxy for your confidence.
No, it's definitely, I think having that plan and having those people around you, and yeah, I think that's a cure for imposter syndrome straight there. I think if you go out and try to do it on your own, I think you can try that for a little bit, but then if you're starting to struggle, I would definitely recommend, the Agency Accelerator, because it's I think it's the best program around. So where can they apply for the Agency Accelerator if they wanted to?
Yes, well, yeah, obviously we're clearly biased on this one, but we do think it is a good program, and the results do speak for themselves. So I think you just have to take a look at the clients and the students that have gone through the program. So yes, we'll make sure to put a link in the show notes or down below the video, agencyaccelerator.io. That's it, agencyaccelerator.io will take you where you need to go. And with that said, Dave, good chat today, my friend. Good chat.
Good to be here. See ya.
All right, buddy. Talk soon.